So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jennifer Hardy, and this, of course, is the Unstoppable Podcast Show. And today I am joined by Raw Relationship owner and coach, Melissa Walker. Thank you so much, Melissa, for appearing on our podcast show today.
Thank you, Jennifer, for having me.
Of course. So Raw Relationships is the name of your awesome business. Can you tell me a little bit more about that business, please?
I sure can. I decided through my own experiences that relationships were important and what was going on in them was important. And I felt like not a lot of people were talking about the things like cheating and all the things that are really raw, and they really break a person down.
Yeah.
But as I learned in my own journey that if I really just get real with it and just realize that it's not me and it's not them, it's just how it was.
Yeah.
And when I started going on my journey, I was like, we just need to talk about this more. This needs to be something that's huge. And so I started it as the podcast, my own podcast. And that's when it changed into doing my coaching and learning all that.
Is that one of your babies in the background there?
That's my little guy. It's 8 o'clock in the morning here, so he's alive and well.
How many children do you have, Melissa?
I have 4 children. My older 2 are 21 and 19, and then my younger 2 are 4.5 and 1.5. So I've got, and that's also been part of my journey. Is having a whole other family has really made me reflect, and I think reflection is like a huge part in life when we start reflecting and looking back. And my older 2 are moved out now, so it's like they're gone and it's a whole new chapter, that changes things a lot when it comes down to how you kind of live your life, if that makes sense.
Super inspiring, though, that you are still an entrepreneur at the same time as having kids. I know busy life can get around children, so it's tough. Talk to me about, I know that obviously you work with both men and women, but something that you mentioned just when we were having a quick chat before was the importance actually of the relationship that you have with your son. How that can really be influential in the relationships that you end up having.
Yeah, well, and it does, and the patterns that we have in relationships. Like, I'll give you an example of my own relationship pattern. I would always find guys that would cheat on me, and they just never treated me good. They were abusive in some way, shape, or form. They didn't value me. I was just like an object to them.
Yeah.
And for many years, I got really upset, and I was like, why does every guy cheat on me? I just don't get it. Like, am I not good enough? Yeah. And then it was like one moment, I'm like, in my mind, that's how I feel, is I'm not good enough. And then I have daddy issues on top of that. My real father committed suicide when I was 2 years old, which I don't remember, but it still affects me, right? And I don't think it affects me, but there's abandonment issues, there's betrayal because of the suicide. I feel betrayed and that it wasn't right. And so this is what I'm seeking out in a relationship, is betrayal and being abandoned. And funny enough, that's what happened, and I think we all create that if we don't know what it is, right? If we're not aware.
Yeah. So tell me, when was your moment in the realization, was it a specific incident that happened, or did you just wake up one morning and say, do you know what, I'm going to change this pattern, I'm going to change, and I'm going to do a little bit more self-discovery? What was your clinical moment?
The moment was when I got divorced, actually. I decided at that moment, because it was the last final being cheated on, and I decided that I was going to solely focus on me. and my kids, obviously, because I had my first two at that time. And I actually stayed single for 7 years.
Wow.
And I focused on just me. And I can tell you, it was probably the best 7 years of my life.
Wow.
Because I didn't have to put my energy into some other person that needed to make me feel a certain way. And that is just huge. When you can wake up and you can know that, my husband doesn't need to make me feel good. He needs to make me feel valued and stuff like this, but he doesn't need to make me feel happy or feel this, and I also realized during having kids, the same thing happens, is they're not always going to make you happy. They're going to do things that are, you're going to shake your head and you're going to pull your hair out, and you can't control that. That's just, you got to just let people be who they are and not expect what you want them to be, which is hard. And I still find myself doing that, with my husband. I've been married 6 years now to a wonderful man. Do I have trust issues? Yes, of course I have trust issues, but I'm aware of them. Yes. And when I feel that thought, because it all starts as a thought and then it changes into a feeling and then it changes into a reaction. So if I have a thought, oh no, he's cheating on me, then I have to check in with myself and say, what is making me insecure? Why am I insecure? What's going on? And really assess it, right? And when you can get to that moment where you just stop and pause and be like, okay, where's this with me? Because it starts with ourselves.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And so tell me, when you were going through that and when the divorce happened and, you got your kids and that what has to happen, what has to start is you falling back in love with yourself. What steps you actually took? Did you do a lot of reading? Did you start to look into things like meditation, or what was the kind of practical things that you did to help that process?
Well, I did a few things. I always did a lot of reading and personal growth. So how can I make myself better? Because I always, I guess even from a young child, I really wanted to make people feel better. But then, and that carried through my life, right? Until I decided I need to work on me. Yeah. And when I looked into it, I started changing who I was hanging around with. Yes. So other people that were really negative tend to kind of just slip away. And then I was finding myself in more positive crowds. I was finding myself in different jobs than I would never be in. When I was really not working on myself, I did kind of crappy jobs. And then once I really started believing in myself and being like, hey, I am worthy, I am good, I am smart, I am beautiful, I am all these things. I was starting to go into management positions, and I was just raising the bar a little higher. And I think
happens, doesn't it, when you start to uncover your real worth? It's like the universe just begins to present opportunity and to be like, going, keep up leveling yourself. You're worth it. This is why you're here.
Yeah. And it's really hard, I think, for a lot of people because they don't understand where it kind of comes from. And that's, for me, like, I knew where it came from, but it doesn't just fix it, right? Yes. If we know, I know where mine comes from. It comes from childhood, which most of our stuff does. Yeah. And if we're not, I think sometimes even if we know, maybe the timing just isn't right. Yes. To kind of, fix it. But I think if you can reach out to someone that can help you and can, for myself, that reaching out for a coach was what I had to do, because I don't know everything, and I'm objective to my own stuff. So I think really reaching out to someone that can help you and talk you through things. And with my ex-husband, the one I did divorce, for a long time, I felt like he was cheating on me, and I couldn't decipher whether it was intuition, so I knew something was going on, or my past experiences really just dictating me being fearful.
Yeah, of course.
So I would ask him, and he would say, no, everything's fine, everything's fine. And eventually I felt like I was going crazy.
Yeah.
So I reached out to a therapist, and they ended up putting me on medication, and everything was good. I was, I had no feelings for a long time, no awareness. And I just lived life. And I actually gained 100 pounds in the process because I was sleeping all the time. It was horrible. It was like I was depressed, and they had put me on depression medication. And then one morning, his phone rang, and I reached out, which I never would have done because, like I said, I didn't even think about him cheating. I didn't care what he was doing. I grabbed it, and it was an email from ashleymadison.com, which is a website for married people looking to have an affair. And I was like, in that moment, and I think that was the moment I was like, like the words that probably came out of my mouth were not good.
No, goodness.
Yeah, it was not a good thing. So for a whole year, he let me think I was crazy. Now, do people that love each other do that kind of thing? Like, no, that's horrible. Yeah. And so I think when I divorced him, I was in that state of like, this makes no sense to me. Like, as humans, we're always looking for love. We're always looking for something, and it seems like I don't know, it just seems like what the media puts out there as what romance is and what love is. I think we have to be really realistic with our expectations and allow people to just be themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like take a minute to just enjoy them for who they are. Like, I really teach mindfulness because I think that's a big part of society's problem is we're not in the now. Like, we're always so busy being stuck in the past, which I've been there, or we're planning for the future, worrying, which I don't do. I'm not very good for planning. But I've always been I'm here and now. I break a lot of appointments because there might be something else going on, and that's just how I am, because I don't want to structure everything to feel like I'm failing if I'm not making those goals, right? Like, you know what I mean? I totally say you should have goals, but they have to be realistic goals. They can't be unrealistic. As same as the expectations. If you expect your partner to, take the garbage out every day, then you better have that talked about. There has to be a communication issue around that. You can't just expect him to read your mind and take the garbage out every day, and then if he doesn't, you get angry, but then you hold it back, right? And then it just builds up. And I see this happen all the time, and I've done it in my own relationships, right? Because I didn't have the self-worth to say, hey, this is not okay. And but it has to be done right from like ground zero, I think.
I agree with you, because there has to be the conversation. People aren't mind readers, it's like, if you are desperately unhappy with your partner, where at one point you were blissfully happy, then there has to be the conversation about, well, why am I not feeling happy? And is, for example, your partner doing something that you've not even spoken about? Is he saying something that is really upsetting or hurting you, and you've not had the conversation about it? Because I'll tell you, I was exactly the same. I would just expect my husband to read my mind, and when he didn't, I would get annoyed. And that's what starts the vicious circle of then feeling unhappy. But actually, now that I'm self-aware, now that I do have much more respect for my own values, and for myself as a valued person, I am able now to just converse about that and say, this is how I'm feeling, this is how you've made me feel, and this is what I think is okay and what's not okay. And I completely expect him to do the same. And it was when we were speaking before, when I was asking you, you know, what is a lot of the people that are coming to you, what are they going through, or what's the kind of reasoning? And you did say unrealistic expectation was one of them, and breaking communication. And that is the case, isn't it? That's the majority of people when they're going through a relationship crisis. It's those kind of things that are in the way.
Yeah, and I think women especially, and I'm not just saying it's all women, there's men out there like this too, but women especially, we wear so many different hats. We're moms, we're entrepreneurs, we're employees, you know, we have to keep a house, we have to do the laundry, we have to cook, you know, we wear all these hats and we really forget about who we are. What do we want? Until all of a sudden you feel like you're taken for granted, nobody appreciates you, and then you have a meltdown, you know. And I've done it, I still do it. I mean, you have to be aware though, instead of having that reaction and that meltdown, you have to go, okay, it's time for me to just give me some me time. And that's why I was telling you about the challenge, with the self-love challenge, is that's what it's all about. Is there's absolutely no reason you cannot take 5 minutes out of your day to show yourself love and appreciation. And if you did that, then you wouldn't need it from anyone else, and the stuff that you did get from everyone else would mean something, right? And the energy changes too. Like, I'm a huge believer of energy and karma and all of this stuff. And the energy changes if you start actually putting time and attention and devotion into your soul. So doing things that make your soul actually feel warm and fuzzy. And it doesn't have to be, like, for me, sitting outside and listening to the birds, that does it for me. So I do that probably 10 times a day. You know, I go out there and I enjoy it, and I breathe in the fresh air and I listen to the birds. Sometimes I even record them to add them to my meditations. Like, that's something that if it was taken away from me, I would be a piled up mess on the couch watching Jerry Springer or something, you know, like, it wouldn't be good. And that,
just being outside, outdoors, and listening to nature, it's the most beautiful feeling, isn't it?
It is. I love it. Even in the snow, I like it. I really love the outdoors, and that's something, you know, I'm not a particular, like, a camper or a you know, this kind of thing, staying outside. I like indoors to sleep, but, you know, I just love the beauty of the world. I mean, there's so much to appreciate, and that's the one thing in the challenge is I really tell women, because most of the people that I coach are women when it comes to the self-love. And what I tell them is really gratitude is everything, and you have to be gracious for the things you do have, and stop, you know, trying to live up to some expectation of, maybe, I don't know, TV or, you know, whatever this society. I mean, you can have what you want, and if you really want it, you have to go out and get it. You can't just sit around. You know, like, I know for myself, I raised 2 girls as a single mom, right up until they were 18. And their father never once even helped financially, didn't come see them, nothing. And I did it. And you know what? They're great kids. They're happy. You know, they're not lacking. I mean, obviously they're not perfect, because no human is perfect, but, you know, they're perfect to me because they're mine. But you know, and it is what it is. You make out of what you have. So, and for me, it was, sometimes I think it was, like, extraordinarily easy when I look back, you know, because I see so many people struggling. And it's like, I didn't struggle, but I guess I just had a drive to really, I don't know, just to be in the moment. Like, I can't really say anything other than that. It's huge to just be present and be mindful.
Definitely, mindfulness has completely changed my life as well. So I'm there with you. I have so much appreciation just for being in the moment and actually taking time to just take stock of what is going on around you, what you're creating, what your relationships, like you said as well. So it's been incredible speaking to you, Melissa. Thank you so much for coming on. I would love to know, for the people that are out there listening, you know, being in an unhealthy relationship is so damaging on a personal level. And I know that there'll maybe be people out there listening today that are going through something like that. So how would they reach out to you, Melissa?
They can find me on my website, which is rawrelationships.net. And then we also have, I have a Facebook page, which is Raw Relationships. And the group as well is called Raw Relationships, which they're linked. So I think if you like my page, you can get to my group.
Wonderful.
And then, yeah, and then the self-love challenge, that one starts July 30th. And that you can just, you can search it, Love Yourself 5-day challenge. That's what that's called.
Wonderful. I'm so happy to speak to you. So it's very rare that I get to speak about this stuff. A lot of the women that I speak to are somehow involved in, you know, just kind of business and things like that, and strategy and marketing, and that is all wonderful, but it's absolutely lovely to hear you chat about relationships and self-love and self-care. It is so, so crucial and so important. So thank you for being with me today, Melissa.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And I will say good morning, good afternoon, good evening again to everyone listening out there. Thank you so much for listening to this episode today. And you can find Melissa's link at the link below as well. And of course, you can find out more about Unstoppable and what we do and our mission and what we're trying to drive forward when it comes to women ruling the world. So thank you so much again for listening, everyone, and I will speak to you all again real soon. I hope you enjoyed this episode.